Welcome back. You remember when we last left our story, Doris was trying to explain to Helen the role that Polly played in Doris's disappearance. She started by saying they made a deal. Helen sat, her head swimming. Lorraine and Polly? So Lorraine told Polly about us, and of course Polly was horrified. What kind of a deal are you talking about exactly? They worked together, Helen. They combined forces to tear us apart. Doris couldn't hold back her tears. Helen's fear and concern had given way to pure anger. Are you telling me that Lorraine was acting for Polly? Is that why Lorraine threatened us? But why would she? What did she? Helen glared at Doris. Money. It had to be money. Polly paid Lorraine to get rid of you. Paid her? And you and I here, all this time you knew this and you kept it from me? Why? Why would you do that? Tears of anger were flowing freely. To protect you, Doris replied quietly. To protect me from what? From the manipulations of someone I thought loved me? Someone I thought was my best friend? Helen melted into tears. You, made a fool of me. It seemed to Helen that pieces of the puzzle were continually coming together, only to withdraw again into confusion. Please believe me when I say it was never my intention to make you look foolish, Doris pleaded. I knew how hurt you would be, how angry and hurt. Polly will never tolerate us. You know that. Even if we could get her mind around lesbians, she could never get her mind around a black and white couple of any kind. I just thought, if Polly believed she had succeeded, we could continue to do what we've been doing, meeting here when we can. Not telling you seemed to be the best thing for everyone. Doris looked at Helen, who looked a little shaky. Doris took her hand, but Helen pulled away. All of this has been about protecting me in one way or another, hasn't it? Helen asked. Everybody has been protecting Helen, and now, look who's hurt. Doris sat quietly, not knowing quite what to do. Helen continued, pacing. So Polly believes she ended this relationship by paying Lorraine to get rid of you all those years ago. Polly? Helen was crying again. Polly, my dearest friend, did that to me, and you decided I didn't need to know. I can almost imagine Polly deceiving me if she felt she were involved in some misguided effort to help me. But you, of all people, why? Doris sat straight up in her seat. I will try to explain. Will you give me the time to try to explain? I'll tell you what happened. Please, let me try. Helen sat down across the room. Doris began. So many years ago, Doris sighed. A lifetime ago, when Lorraine came to me and told me that Polly knew about our relationship, she took great pleasure in telling me that it was my son who told her all about it. Lorraine said that Polly was so upset that she had agreed to pay Lorraine whatever money she needed to leave town if, before she left, she would also get rid of me. Lorraine told me that if I didn't leave town, she would make sure everyone knew about us. We would be ostracized. Our children would suffer. Our friendships dissolve. Doris looked at Helen now. You know she is right. So I left, but not easily. Please understand, not easily. Then I realized, Doris smiled, that all I needed to do was to come here and call you. This was no great plan the two of them hatched, just both serving their unlimited purposes. So here we are. Here we are, Helen was glaring. You knowing of the deception and the lies, the years of lies. Do you have any idea how stupid and disrespected that makes me feel? I didn't think that telling you about Polly would serve any purpose except to cause you pain, but I was wrong, Doris continued. I know that now. I was wrong, and you're right. I wasn't showing you the respect you deserve. Damn right you weren't, Helen exclaimed. Pain? What do you think I feel now? I know this is a shock, Doris said quietly. Helen looked at her in disbelief. Now that you know all this, Doris continued, the only person still in the dark is Polly. Not for long. Helen slammed the front door behind her and drove away. Chapter 14. Helen drove straight to Polly's. She let herself in with her key and headed for the parlor. "Polly, it's Helen. I need to talk to you, excuse me, right now." "Okay, Ellen, come in. Make a drink," Polly replied from the kitchen. "We're going to need them," she added beneath her breath. "Polly, come in here and sit down," Helen demanded again. Polly could only wonder what new hell was coming her way. Why was Helen angry? Polly was surely the one with reason. "Are you all right, Helen? You look a bit agitated." "Agitated is the wrong word, Polly. I'm livid." Helen sat down opposite Polly and poured martinis. She wanted to look Polly in the eye, but when she tried, she became so angry and confused that she couldn't continue. Polly slammed the food she was carrying down on the table. "Well, so am I. What the hell is your excuse?" Helen looked at Polly with such malice that Polly felt literally compelled to take a seat. Helen walked around the room, wiped her eyes, and began. "I have a story to tell you, Polly. It's about two friends who weren't really friends at all," Helen said. "Two friends who grew up together, who trusted each other. But one friend, as it turns out, thinks that she knows what's best for the other." Polly felt herself pale. Helen continued, her voice steadier now. "Actually, one friend thinks she knows what's best for everyone, everywhere, so when she thinks that perhaps her friend is making a mistake, she doesn't talk to her. She doesn't say to her friend, 'So, do you think you're making the best decision?' No, what does she do instead? She slinks off with a snake and makes a plan, not just any plan, a secret plan, a mercenary plan to tear her friend's life apart." Polly's mind returned to the day she made the decision to help Helen, to keep her from ruining her life. So what was this? Had Lorraine betrayed her? After all she had paid out to that woman, had she told Helen about her? Surely not. How would that be to her benefit? "Oh my God, it was Doris," she heard herself say aloud. Lorraine was telling the truth. Doris is right next door. "Helen, how could you? How could you?" "How could I?" Helen looked at Polly in disbelief. "Is that really the first thing you have to say, Polly? Doris and I are in love." Polly winced noticeably. "Of course you're not, Helen." "In love, Polly." Helen leaned forward for emphasis. "And it doesn't matter whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. It just is. And it's really none of your business." Polly stood. "None of my business?" "Shut up, Polly." Helen stood as well. She'd never been so angry with her friend. All the years of snobbery, all the years of prejudice, nothing had hit home like this. She felt she was seeing Polly for the first time, and all she could do was cry in anger. "And to think that I hid the relationship from you to protect you, so you wouldn't have to come down off that high horse you're always on." "I was trying to protect you," Polly replied. "Protect me from what? Happiness?" Helen asked. "I guess I was trying to protect you from yourself." Polly looked sympathetically at Helen. "You are being self-destructive." Helen looked at Polly in sheer disbelief again. "Would it make you feel any better," Polly continued, "if I told you that I'm not exactly getting off scot-free?" "Really?" Helen responded, her voice shaky. "Did you lose your best friend because you found out her goal in life was to destroy your happiness?" "Helen, stop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You have no idea how sorry I am." Now Polly was crying as well. "And why is that?" Helen replied. "Because you failed? Because you've been found out?" "Because that witch is blackmailing me," Polly suddenly smiled. "Hey, no, she was blackmailing me. Nothing left to blackmail me about now." "Blackmailing you? Lorraine was blackmailing you to keep me from finding out about your part in this scheme? That's why she's here? That's wonderful. I love it. You're right about one thing. Lorraine can't blackmail you anymore. As for me, Polly, I never want to see you again." Helen cried her way to the door and out to her car. She could hear Polly calling after her as she drove away. Chapter 15. Doris knew Helen needed space. Maybe a lot of space, she thought, fighting back the tears. In any case, Doris needed to know that Helen was at least safely home. She called Gordon the very next day. "Hello, Gordon, my adventurous son. Good morning. This is your mom," Doris began. "Yes, I gathered that when you said hello, my son. Not sure about the adventurous part," Gordon replied. "You need to venture over this way. We have to talk," Doris continued. When Gordon arrived, Doris was pacing the living room. She looked up when she saw him come through the unlocked door. "Hi, honey. Come in. Sit down. Coffee?" "Sure. You okay, Mom? That's orange juice you just poured into yours," Gordon said with a smile. "Shit," Doris replied, taking the ruined coffee to the kitchen sink. When she returned, Gordon was sitting on the couch. Doris took a chair. "Okay, Mom, I'm here. What do we need to talk about?" Gordon began. Doris took a deep breath and looked at her handsome son. "You actually, my dear, you and that witch, Lorraine." "Whoa, Mom," Gordon responded with alarm. "Wait, I'm sorry and I love you, but really I'm not going to discuss Lorraine with you." "Gordon, listen. Look at me." Doris reached for Gordon's arm. "There are some things that are going to come out. About Lorraine, about Polly." "Polly?" Gordon asked, surprised. "I just want to give you a heads up." Doris was fighting the tears. She had betrayed Helen, but she had also betrayed her son. She had meant to protect them both, but now... "You know Lorraine came to me and told me to leave town, but you don't know that she had help, someone who helped her to leave." "Yeah," Gordon replied. "Joe doesn't understand that one either. He asked me if I knew who she hit up for the money, said he was sure it wasn't him." "It was Polly, honey, and Polly was more than happy to oblige," Doris assured him. "Polly?" Gordon replied. "That bigoted bitch? That woman has never so much as looked me in the eye. Did you know that, Mom?" "Oh yes, she doesn't look me in the eye either. I've always considered that a blessing." Mother and son looked at each other now and laughed. Doris continued. "Lorraine went to Polly and told her all about us." Gordon put down his coffee. He was trying to process what he was hearing. "So Lorraine went to Polly with what I told her about the two of you." "Polly? Well, that does make more sense. Doesn't make it any less my fault," Doris interrupted. "Lorraine told Polly that she had two choices. Polly could either pay her a good deal of money, or Lorraine would ruin Helen and Polly's lives, expose Helen's lifestyle to all of Dysonville. Polly's best and oldest friend, a lesbian with a black lover." Doris stopped and looked out the window. She realized she was very tired. "On the other hand," Doris continued, "if she were paid well enough, Lorraine promised to leave town and get me out of town as well, out of Helen's life for good." "Polly? And you didn't say anything to me?" Gordon asked. "I didn't say anything to anyone, not even Helen." Doris felt a pain around her heart and tears coming into her eyes. "I understand not telling Helen. Wow, but why not tell me?" Gordon looked a bit hurt. "You were just so upset, honey. You felt so guilty. Lorraine was gone. There just didn't seem to be any good reason to tell you," Doris replied. "Okay. All right, Mom, I get that. I don't like it." He looked at his mom as if to warn her against future decisions like that one. "But why now? Why are you telling me all of this now?" "Because Helen knows," Doris continued, "and by now I'm sure Polly knows that Helen knows. All hell's going to break loose." "So, do you think Lorraine's back in town for more money? She won't have a leg to stand on if everything's out. Lorraine is out of luck." "And there's the silver lining. But Gordon, I really need you to do me a favor," Doris continued. "Sure, Mom," Gordon replied. "Check in on Helen. I don't think she wants to talk to me right now," Doris said, "and I want to know she's okay." "Sure, Mom. Of course." Gordon hugged her mom. "But give Helen time. You made the wrong decision about both of us, by the way. But you did it out of love. She'll see that." "I'm still not sure I made the wrong decision." Doris looked at her son. "What will become of Helen and Polly now?" "Keep an eye on her, Gordon, please." "Happy to keep an eye on Helen as soon as I speak to Lorraine," Gordon thought. In anger, he went to her townhouse without calling. She was home. "Gordon, how nice. Come in. Lorraine said with a smile. Gordon walked into the living room and sat. Lorraine watched him for a bit, in some confusion. Finally she said, "Okay, here we are, Gordon. Was there something you wanted?" "Lorraine," Gordon began, feeling more in control than he had ever been in her presence. "Lorraine, you have a problem." "A problem? I don't think so. Let's see," Lorraine smiled. "You have a problem with me, Lorraine. I know all about everything now. And by the way, so does Helen. She's been to see Polly. Has any of that gotten back to you yet?" Gordon was looking straight at her now. "Has what gotten back to me?" Lorraine asked in some alarm. "Gordon, what are you talking about?" "Lorraine, everyone knows about your scheme. About my part, about Polly's part. Helen knows. Mom told her, and then she told me." Gordon was searching Lorraine's face. He watched it change as she realized what he was telling her. "There are no more secrets, Lorraine. You're out of luck and out of town as soon as possible. I mean it." "Gordon," Lorraine took his hand, "out of town? What would you do without me?" "Live with myself," Gordon replied, and with that he left. Chapter 16. Polly called, but Helen didn't answer. If anyone else called, they were out of luck as well. Alice's party was quickly approaching. That was enough to keep Helen's mind almost off her problems. She missed Doris so much. She had decided to call her, and soon. The phone rang. Helen answered without thinking. It was Doris. "Doris, good, it's you. I mean, it's not Polly." "What?" Helen said in frustration. "Helen, I want to talk. Can we please talk?" As Helen listened, she picked up the morning paper. Life and Leisure fell out. When Helen saw the front page of the section, she began to laugh hysterically. She simply couldn't stop. "Helen, Helen," Doris was yelling through the phone. "What are you doing? Are you okay?" Helen strained to say, "Yes, I'm okay," then relapsed into fits of laughter. "Helen, Helen, I'm coming over right now," Doris replied in alarm. Yes, do that. Actually, we have a lot to talk about," Helen said through her laughter and tears. The headline read, "Dysonville Assisted Living, the happiest place in the world to die." Ask anyone associated with DAL these days, and they will tell you that it's a hopping place. Food is good, bingo is regular, and entertainment is always available from various sources, from crossword puzzles to jigsaws. But entertainment is not what makes a living space. People make a living space, and according to residents and families alike, Helen Wickens makes DAL a living space. Helen is a volunteer who never tires of visiting, never tires of reading, playing cards, or helping where needed. But our sources tell us the most wonderful thing about Helen Wickens are her amazing muffins. So sweet that you almost pucker. Small individual bites of heaven. She brings them when asked and never turns anyone down. Families are particularly thankful for these treats Helen shares with the residents, many of whom, even though their loved ones have passed on, stay in touch with her. Thank you, Helen, from all of us at Dysonville Assisted Living, 401 Main Street, Dysonville, Tennessee. Helen cut out the article. She found an old frame that just fit it and hung the article among the oleander. Doris arrived in half an hour and burst through Helen's door. Helen grabbed her and pulled her all the way to the porch. Look at this article. Can you believe it? They're honoring me for how can we put this? Helen was laughing. Probably best not put it at all, Doris responded, but I love that you were honored. For caring. Yes, for caring, Helen replied. Let's go with that. After a moment, Doris began again. Helen, I'm so sorry, and added hesitantly, have you talked to Polly? Oh yes, Helen's eyes blazed, and you don't apologize for any of this ever again. I know why you did what you did. I can't see how anyone is to blame here except Polly. Without Polly, none of this would have worked. Think about it. Helen took Doris's hand. What was Lorraine going to do without Polly's help? Expose us to Dysonville? What would that get her? She needed Polly to make this worth her while. It was all Polly, Doris. She poured coffee for both, and they sat on the porch. That meddlesome bitch. Helen looked at Doris. There were tears in both their eyes. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm not sure there's anything left there. anything at all. I'm almost too angry to cry. You see, this is why I lied. Doris looked at Helen. Maybe I was wrong, but this is why, right here, this pain you're feeling. I'm just so tired of thinking about it, Helen sighed, kissing Doris's hand, and said, so I'm going to stop. And I have something to suggest to you. Move right back to Dysonville. What? Doris looked at Helen and smiled. Really? How? What will we say? We don't have to say anything. My housekeeper left, now she's back, living in my house where she belongs. I think it's the only way for me to be comfortable with all of this, Doris. I want Polly to know, absolutely know that she didn't win. She has never been the winner. You want revenge? Doris questioned. I want to get on with our lives, Helen replied emphatically. Okay, Doris smiled. Okay, I'll move back in, but as your housekeeper, Helen, nothing has changed about that. Deal. Helen took Doris's hands and pulled her to standing. If you agree to attend Alice's party as my friend. Deal, Doris replied. Helen looked at her questioningly. Really, I promise. You got it. We'll be good friends at your party. You think Lorraine will show up and make trouble? I'll deal with Lorraine, Helen said emphatically. Doris looked at Helen, then at her framed epistle, and couldn't help but wonder, Helen, what do you mean you'll deal with Lorraine? Helen, I'm not sure I want you to deal with Lorraine. Don't worry, Doris. I just want to talk to her, Helen assured her, to explain that it's all over, that she's done here. Think that will work? Doris asked. This is Lorraine we're talking about. Oh, it will work, Helen replied and kissed Doris. I'll make it work. Lorraine ran into Helen at the grocery store. Well, Lorraine, Helen smiled. How nice to see you. I was going to call. Lorraine stopped and looked at Helen with a dubious smile. Really? Why? We need to talk, Lorraine, but not here. I'll come by your place later this afternoon, and you might want to start packing. Lorraine brushed this last statement off with a wave of her hand, but she was a bit alarmed. She knew Helen wasn't planning a friendly visit. At 4 p.m. the doorbell rang. Hey, Lorraine, mind if I come in? Helen asked as she pushed her way through the door. Make me a drink. Sure, Lorraine replied, as long as I haven't packed the booze. When Lorraine returned with 2 scotches, Helen was looking out the window. She turned with such force that Lorraine said almost without realizing it. Helen took her drink, downed it, poured another, and began, You're a bitch, Lorraine. God, I can't tell you how long I wanted to tell you that. Actually, I don't know why I waited so long. It feels great. You're a bitch, Lorraine, a bitch. And, Helen took a swig, you are so screwed. Screwed. Helen, I know. Lorraine looked at her ranting house guest. Screwed, Lorraine, Helen said, and tried to compose her thoughts. I'm here to let you know that Doris is moving back to Dysonville, and Polly won't have a thing to say about it. Actually, Polly and I won't have anything to say to one another, maybe ever again. Everyone knows about your little scheme, Lorraine, how you and Polly conspired. Everyone knows everything, so... At this point, there was a knock on the still open door. It was Polly. Helen looked up, shook her head slowly, and laughed aloud. Oh, this is wonderful. Here for some more undercover plans? Have a drink, Polly. They're on Lorraine. Helen, what in the hell are you doing here, drunk? Polly took her arm. Helen backed up, pushing Polly into a chair. Get off me, Polly. Never ever try to talk to me again. I really don't want your help, and believe it or not, I don't need it. Helen threw her drink down, breaking the glass, and headed out the door, slamming it behind her, but not before she floored Lorraine with a right hook. Polly raged at Lorraine. What did you do to her? Why was she here? Why were you getting her drunk? Lorraine pulled herself up off the floor. What did I do to her? Did you see her hit me just now? Yeah, I saw that. I plan to relive it regularly, Polly assured her. Now why was Helen here? Lorraine stood up and left for the kitchen. When she returned, she was holding an ice pack on her jaw. She was here, Polly, to tell me that Doris is moving back to Dysonville, and apparently you'll have nothing to say about it, and that I'm screwed. That's as far as we got before you showed up, and I know, Gordon. Polly interrupted. Well, that's what I came to tell you. Maybe if both of us spell it out, you can get it. You don't have a leg to stand on, Lorraine. Doris told Helen all about my part in her disappearance, about our plan, the whole plan. I doubt Helen will ever speak to me again. And as to you, not a penny from me, ever again. You can get a job, or you can get out of town, but you're not blackmailing me anymore. Polly left without closing the door. I know, Lorraine said as she sank into a chair. Her hand fell on the packed box next to it. She looked down and sighed. I'll stop there.